Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Medieval Wedding Feasts. What guest really had tits time to let the day slip away? Wherever you are, whether you're lying in bed, curled beneath a favorite blanket, or simply resting for a little while, let your body soften, ... Let your eyes grow heavy. Take in a deep, gentle breath and release it slowly, like a sigh that floats into the evening air. Feel the tension melt from your shoulders, your jaw unclench, your hands resting still. Let the hum of the world fade to silence, only calm remains. There is no rush now, no need to do anything at all. This is your time, a quiet time, a soft time. You are safe and warm and ready to drift. Now, as your thoughts begin to wander and your breath finds a peaceful rhythm, let your mind open to a world far away, far back in time. Let us step into a place of flickering torchlight, echoing laughter, and the warm sense of roasted meat and honeyed wine. A place where velvet banners sway in cool stone halls. It's the music of lutes, hummed softly through the rafters. Yes. Story tonight begins in a castle tucked deep within the green hills of medieval Europe. It is a place few ever visit. But tonight, you are invited inside. Tonight, you are a guest. At a royal wedding feast, the air is cool and damp, the way ancient stone always feels in a northern castle. But within the hall, fires crackle in great hearths, and candles flicker in iron sconces. Outside, the sun has just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of plum and ash. A gentle breeze sighs through the tall grass, and in the distance, owls begin their slow evening songs. The gates of the castle are open wide, lined with garlands of late summer flowers, sweet alyssum, oxeye daisies, and branches of rosemary. Twined with ribbon, guests arrive slowly, some on foot, some by horseback, their breath misting in the evening chill. The ladies wear woolen cloaks embroidered with ivy, their headdresses trimmed with fur against the night air. The men have traded their dusty tunics for brighter linens, russet, moss, and slate. Laughter comes easily here. Da-da. The joy of the wedding has lifted even the tired old guards at the gates. It is not every day a noble family joins in marriage, and not every day one is fed until the stars fade. A long table waits just inside the main hall, gleaming under torchlight. It stretches the length of the room, heavy and wide, carved from oak darkened by centuries of feasts. At its center sits the high table where the bride and groom will soon take their places beneath. A canopy of silk and gold thread. But not yet for now. We wait. The guests settle onto wooden benches, warming their hands near the hearth, where spits turn slowly over glowing coals. The scent. Oh, the scent. There is the sweetness of roasting game hens, their skins crackling and golden. The sharp, earthy smell of onions and garlic simmering in broth. And somewhere nearby, the unmistakable fragrance of baked apples. Studded with cloves and cinnamon, as you take your seat, a comfortable place near the middle of the table, a servant in a woolen tunic pours warm wine into a pewter cup. The cup is heavy in your hand, solid, real. You raise it and feel the warmth spread through your fingers. The wine is mulled infused with honey, nutmeg, and a whisper of bitter orange peel. It is soothing, like an embrace in liquid form. You sip, slowly, and breathe out. Somewhere, a small harp begins to play. Delicate, dancing notes that echoes softly through the stone arches of the ceiling. Time begins to slow. Let us look around. Gently, patiently, and see what's being served. The first course is simple, meant to awaken the appetite and prepare the senses for what is to come. A trencher, a thick slab of bread, crusty on the outside, soft and steaming in the center, is placed before you. It acts as your plate, but later, it too may be eaten or given to the poor waiting outside. The castle walls, atop the trencher, is a pottage, a thick stew of lentils, carrots, leeks, and bits of salted pork. It's rich and fragrant, steaming gently in the candlelight. Each bite is soft and filling. The flavors deep from long hours over a fire. You break off pieces of bread to dip into the stew, and the crust soaks it up like a sponge. Around the hall, You hear the quiet clinking of wooden spoons and the contented sighs of guests enjoying their first bites. The atmosphere is gentle, without rush, just a slow unfolding of flavors and warmth. The next course arrives in a great procession. Servants emerge from the side halls bearing trays of roasted meats, venison glazed with honey, wild boar with juniper berries, and chicken stuffed with herbs and barley. The scent alone is enough to lull your senses into dreamlike contentment. The meats are carved at the table by men in fine livery, their knives flashing in the firelight. Each guest is offered a portion, laid carefully upon fresh trenchers. A spoonful of thick, spiced mustard is passed along in a small ceramic pot. You dab a bit onto the edge of your meat. The taste is bold and grounding, smoky and sharp. Alongside the meats come platters of cooked greens, kale, cabbage, and sorrel, lightly sautéed with vinegar and goose fat, and a dish of peas mashed with mint and butter. Everything is served warm, heavy, and full of life. Your body relaxes further, the warmth from the food, the hush of lute music, the glow of the fire, all wrap around you like a soft cloak. Conversation hums in the background but never intrudes. A pair of children, flower-crowned and sleepy-eyed, play with a carved wooden horse near the corner hearth. Their laughter is light, like wind chimes in the distance. A pause in the meal, and a quiet hush falls over the guests. The bride and groom enter at last, stepping slowly down the stone stairs to the sound of a single flute. She wears a gown of dark blue velvet, simple but exquisite, with sleeves that trail like waterfalls. Her hair is braided with silver ribbon, and her smile is shy. He wears a surcoat of red wool, trimmed with fur, and his face glows with joy and wine. They take their place beneath the canopy at the high table, and the hall erupts in soft cheers and raised cups. A toast is called. You lift your own cup again. The wine warmed once more by an attentive hand. The words of the toast drift gently into the room, not shouted, but spoken in a voice like honey. To love that deepens with time, two hearths that never grow cold, and to the joy of breaking bread together. The guests drink, and for a moment, everything feels still, timeless. Whole dessert arrives slowly. It's like a reward for patience. There are pies, spiced fig, pear, and almond, their crusts dusted with sugar. There is marzipan, shaped like small birds and flowers, dusted with edible gold. And best of all, there is a custard tart, bright yellow from egg yolks and saffron, surface glossy and sweet. A jug of warm milk, steeped with cardamom and honey, is passed from hand to hand. It's poured into small cups beside the last bites of pastry. You sip, and the sweetness fills your mouth with dreams. Outside, stars shine bright above the castle towers. The torches flicker in the cool wind. Inside the hall, the fire crackles. The harp plays on. The feast continues in gentle waves. But for you, dear guest, sleep has come like a velvet cloak. You are full, warm, and safe, wrapped in a night of music, laughter, and ancient stone. And now, let the rest of the world drift away, sleep, and dream of slow feasts, soft lights, and the timeless joy of being welcome at the table. The evening deepens outside the castle walls. The moon has risen pale and full, drifting like a quiet guardian over the sleeping hills. Beyond the high windows of the feasting hall, silver light glimmers on rooftops and roof tiles, casting long, silent shadows across the stone courtyard below. Inside, the feast has shifted, mellowed. Gone is the bustle of the main courses, the heavy meats and warm trenchers. Now, the hall glows with a softer energy. Fires still burn, but lower now. They crackled gently, casting lazy sparks up into the soot-darkened chimneys, and all around you. The mood has changed from celebration to stillness. The first full bell of the night tolls from a tower above. Its sound is low, round and echoing, as though it is not ringing outside but deep inside your own chest. Boo-oh-oh-oh-oh. And then, silence again. One of the minstrels steps forward with a bowed rebec, a gentle cousin of the fiddle. He draws his horsehair bow across the strings, and out comes a soft, humming melody, long, slow notes that shimmer like starlight. You close your eyes for a moment and feel the music swirl around you. There is no need to think, no need to speak, only to drift with it. Like a boat gliding slowly down a moonlit river, the servants return, not hurried now, but quiet-footed and graceful, like shadows. They bring in what is known as the subtlety, not food meant to be eaten, but art made from edible things. It is a great peacock, its feathers restored to its body after roasting, perched upon a golden tray. Its eyes glitter with tiny glass beads, and in its beak is a sprig of rosemary. A small boy dressed as a page recites a verse in its honor. It's a whimsical rhyme about pride and beauty and feasting well. Everyone claps gently, but soon the peacock is carried away again to make room for the next course. A dish of preserved fruits brought in on pewter platters, pears poached in red wine, quinces steeped in honey and rosewater, candied orange peel curled like ribbons, and sweetmeats, little cubes of almond paste flavored with lavender and clove. You select a pear warm, soft, glistening, and take a slow bite. It melts on your tongue. The sweetness is not sharp, not modern, but rounded and ancient, the sweetness of orchards tended by hands, long since turned to dust, a flavor that carries memory with it. You breathe in. You are so deeply here. A dog sleeps near your feet, some nobleman's hound, curled in a ring with its nose tucked beneath its tail. It snores softly above you. The timbered ceiling groans as the wind picks up outside. The sound is not troubling, but soothing, like waves brushing against the hull of a ship. The hull is a ship now, adrift on a sea of calm, and you are safe within it. A woman seated beside you speaks, her voice gentle and low. She tells you of the wedding earlier that day, of the ceremony held in the chapel, where rushes had been scattered on the floor and garlands hung from every beam. She describes the bride's slow walk down the aisle, the warm scent of beeswax candles, the bishop's blessing spoken in Latin. You smile, eyes half closed, letting the images form and dissolve like candle smoke. She smiles back, understanding that no reply is needed. This is a night for stillness, for quiet company. As another hour passes, the hall becomes more intimate. Some guests doze openly their heads, unfolded arms. Others cradle warm mugs of ale or spiced milk, murmuring softly to one another. The bride and groom have slipped, way as tradition allows, leaving the party to slowly wind down. But the food, it continues, not in great waves now, but in small comforts. A servant offers you a hand pie, no bigger than your palm, filled with spiced beef and dried currants. Its crust is flaky and warm, its filling savory and just sweet enough. Another brings a wedge of soft sheep's cheese, wrapped in leaves, and places it gently beside you. There is no pressure to eat, no expectation, only the quiet joy of being offered. Something made with care. You taste, you breathe, you listen. Outside, the wind sighs against the tower walls, a candle gutters, and far off, in a side corridor, someone begins to hum a lullaby. It is not a song you know, but its notes are old, and soft and slow, and they carry with them the weight of centuries. Perhaps it was sung 2 nights before battle, or to babies in thatched roof cottages. But tonight it is for you, and you feel it settle into your bones. A servant clears your place with gentle hands. Your trencher, now empty, is placed in a wooden bucket, destined to be shared with those who waited patiently beyond the gates. As tradition dictates, nothing wasted, nothing rushed, only the quiet rhythm of a world that understands. The power of the table, the gift of being fed, and the sacredness of sleep. At the back of the hall, near a tapestry hung with lions and lilies, a group of elderly guests are telling stories. Their voices are soft, often trailing into laughter or sighs. You catch only fragments, the tale of a ghostly wedding guest who appeared at midnight, the memory of a feast where the boar stole the bread, the bittersweet remembrance of a friend long gone, who once drank too much mead and fell asleep beneath the table. Their words are like feathers in the air, and soon, they too grow quiet. One by one, the candles are snuffed, the music fades, and someone throws another log onto the fire. It crackles, bright and orange. The sparks rise, then fade like fireflies. You are not alone here. You are part of something ancient, gentle, and deeply human. The feeling of a full belly, a warm fire. The sound of wind and laughter and soft footsteps on stone. This is a memory you've never had, and yet is yours. You are allowed to rest here. You are welcome, as the hall dims, and the flickering torches give way to the silver wash of moonlight. The feast draws to its close, but sleep is just beginning. Let it come as you lie back in your mind's eye near the fire. Upon a bench strewn with woolen cloaks and lavender sprigs, feel your breath become heavier. Slower your body now still. The story will continue, but for now is only rest, only warmth, only the soft beating of your heart in time with the falling embers. You are home here, and all is well. Beautiful. Let us gently return to the firelit hall, where stories linger in the stone and peace hums in the rafters. We now move into the third batch of this bedtime. Time has slowed to a near stillness now. The great hall, once filled with chatter and clinking goblets, has softened into a hush. Only a handful of guests remain, those too full or too content to rise. Lulled by the glow of the hearth and the echo of lute strings that drift from a far corner of the room, some rest with their heads laid on the table's edge, lulled into half-sleep. Others sit wrapped in furs, hands folded over their bellies, watching the fire as if it were telling its own ancient tale. And you are still here, still warm, still welcome, still present in this glowing, golden moment between the waking world and dreams. A servant walks past you, carrying a shallow dish of warm milk with crushed almonds. You recognize her now. She has been serving all night, quietly, efficiently, always with a small smile. Her linen sleeves are rolled to the elbow, and her hands, though red from the chill and the work, move with practiced grace. She catches your eye, and seeing that you're still awake, stops just beside you. Without a word, she pours a small cup, adding a drop of rose water from a carved vial at her hip. She sets it down gently. You nod, gratefully, and when she walks away, the scent of crushed petals and sweet milk lingers behind her like a memory. You cradle the cup in your hands, breathing. In the warmth, it soothes, not just your senses, but something deeper, a part of you that hadn't realized how much it needed gentleness. There is a tale told in this land, whispered in villages and sung on cold nights like this, that those who fall asleep in a castle feast hall may wake having dreamed the lives of every person who ever sat at that same table. It is said their dreams stretch across centuries into the joy and sorrow, hunger and plenty, weddings and funerals of hundreds of souls before them, and when they rise, they carry with them a quiet kind of wisdom. You think of that now and you wonder if perhaps it is already happening to you. The candle beside you sputters once its flame dancing sideways before settling again. The hall grows cooler, but not cold. Somewhere high above, in one of the stone tower rooms, a window has been opened. You can feel the soft drift of air, night-scented and earthy, flowing gently through the rafters. It brings with it the scent of damp leaves, chimney smoke, and the faintest trace of lavender from the gardens beyond the walls. Even nature, it seems, has come to rest near this table, breathing slow and deep. Sharing in the peace of the moment, one last tray is brought out. Small, delicate wafers, thin, almost translucent, made from honey, egg white, and flour. They're crisp, light, and folded into simple shapes: leaves, hearts, doves. Beside them, a small jar of quince paste, thick and golden, is set down with a silver spoon. No one rushes to take any. There's no rush here at all. Eventually, you lift the wafer warm between your fingers, and spoon just a little of the quince onto it. It breaks with a soft snap, and the taste that follows is like the last note of a lullaby, sweet, clean, and fleeting. It is late now, not the kind of late marked by clocks, but the ancient late the deep hours when even time seems to sleep. A man is telling a story near the fire. His voice is low and gravelly, like the soft rumble of distant thunder or a stream tumbling over stones. You don't catch all his words. You don't need to. They flow through the room like incense smoke. It's curling around beams and candles, dancing in the warmth. He speaks of a wedding that took place during a snowstorm. How the guests had to ride sleds through the forest to reach the chapel, how the feasting hall had been lit entirely by lanterns made of ice and pine resin, how the bread had frozen in the kitchens, had to be thawed by placing it beside the cook's chest. Everyone laughs softly at that, even you, because it's a good story, and more than that, it's real. Not in the way of modern facts and records, but in the way of feeling, in the way stories settle into your bones and live there. And that is what tonight is about. One of the last things served is not food at all, but a scent. The steward, a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes, walks the length of the table with a small clay pot of burning herbs, rosemary, sage, and dried bay. He passes by each guest, letting the smoke drift across their hands, their faces, their place at the table. It is a kind of blessing, a farewell, a promise that what was shared tonight will linger not in stomachs alone, but in the spirit. When he reaches you, he pauses. The smoke curls around you, warm and herbal, ancient and clean. You breathe it in, and the feeling is something like home. It is time to sleep now, truly sleep. The fire has burned low, the last song has been played. Outside, the moon is still watching. The stars, like pinpricks in dark velvet, shine cold and clear. But inside you are safe. Someone places a woolen cloak over your shoulders. Someone else dims the last candle near your elbow, and the bench beneath you is softer than you remember as you let your head rest back against the wall. The cloak, the pillow of your own folded arms, your body finally releases everything. The breath slows, the eyes close, and the feast becomes a dream, a long, warm dream, full of dancing shadows and quiet toasts, sweetmeats and harpstrings, laughter and flickering light. You sleep now as they slept the kings and cooks, the poets and bridesmaids, the servants and children, all those who came before you, shared bread at the table. Your heartbeat matches the rhythm of 1,000 years of feasting, and in your dream you carry their stories onward. The flavor of honey, the sound of a knife on wood, the heat of the hearth on your cheeks, these are your memories now, soft, eternal, safe. Sleep comes and goes, like the tide. A soft pull backward, then forward again, never fully awake, never fully gone. You are in a quiet place between the world and its dreams, and the hall around you remains the same, or perhaps slightly changed. As things in dreams often are, the fire glows lower, the air is still. The long table is mostly empty now, but in the shadows, you can still make out shapes. People lingering, spirits perhaps, or simply memories resting nearby. A musician hums a melody without playing, as if even the strings of the lute are too drowsy to move. The glow of embers pulses in the hearth, like the beat of a sleeping heart. You breathe in slowly, and as you do, the world stirs gently once more. A new tray is brought out, this time not by a servant, but by a girl no older than 10. Out. In a dress of russet wool with ribbon in her hair, she carries the tray like a sacred offering. On it, simple gifts from the kitchen, small bundles of dried fruit wrapped in cloth, walnuts still in their shells, and tiny loaves of oat bread round, scored with a cross, and dotted with dried cherries. These are the bidding loaves, tokens of the feast, meant to be taken home. One is placed before you, warm from the oven. Its crust is soft, its scent both humble and rich. You trace your fingers over it slowly, the way one might trace the carvings on a monument, feeling, without words, the quiet love that went into its making. You tuck it away, not to eat now, but to carry with you beyond this night. The hall changes again, just a little. Somewhere far above, a bell tolls softly, not the deep bell of midnight, but a higher one, thinner, almost like a whisper through iron, a reminder that time still moves forward even when we drift far away. But here, within this candlelit moment, time is not a concern. You are exactly where you're meant to be. Let's wander. Now, you rise from your bench, moving slowly, gently, your feet silent on the cool stone floor. The other guests, those who still remain, part slightly to let you through, offering small nods of acknowledgement, as if they understand something special has stirred within you. You pass beneath an arch of woven reeds and dried flowers. Their scent is faint, but comforting, like sun-warmed fields and old herb gardens. Beyond this arch, you find a narrow corridor, lit only by a few candles and iron brackets. The stone walls are carved with names, dates, symbols long forgotten by most. They whisper things to you as you pass, not in words but in feelings. A mother's pride, a child's first steps. A meal eaten during a storm, a wedding once held in the dead of winter. Every feast leaves a trace. You are walking through layers of memory, and each step carries you deeper. The corridor opens into a small chamber, not grand like the hall, but quiet and round, with a single bench near a window. There, beneath the flickering light of one last torch, sits a monk, or perhaps a scribe. His robe is simple, his face is old, and in his lap rests a book so thick its pages sag with the weight. Of time, he does not speak. He only looks up at you, smiles, and turns a page. You feel drawn toward him, not with urgency, but curiosity. When you step closer, you see what he's writing. It is a list, a long flowing list in beautiful ink, not of names, but of dishes. Feasts from hundreds of weddings, thousands of tables, each line a meal prepared. With love, served with grace, remembered with joy. He points to one in the middle of the page. You read, mutton with cumin and leeks served warm to the bride's grandmother before the fire in the year of the green comet. And below it, sweetened curd cheese wrapped in fig leaves, a gift from the groom's uncle, who had traveled from the eastern seas. Asterisk, and still another, spelt bread soaked in wine, for a soldier who had lost his teeth but not his appetite. These are not dishes for royalty alone. They are meals made for all. For every person who ever sat at the feast, rich, poor, beloved, forgotten, all are written in the book, all remembered, all fed. The monk turns another page, and the script glows. Softly in the torchlight, you cannot read the words now. Your eyes grow too heavy, but you know your meal. 2 has been written down. Tonight's trencher, tonight's stew, your warm milk and quince wafer, your laughter, your silence. You are part of the record now. And the monk nods, closes the book gently, and rests his hands atop it. As if tucking you in, you wander back toward the hall, but on the way, you pass another chamber, this one smaller still, and even quieter. Inside, only candlelight, a single low bed, and a woven blanket of sheep's wool and linen. No one says anything. But you understand, this room is for you. It has waited for you, since the first stone of the castle was laid. It is here only for tonight, only for this dream, and as you step inside, the air itself seems to embrace you. You lie down, the blanket is warm, the mattress soft with straw and down, and as you rest your head, you hear not through the walls, but through memory itself, the sounds of the feast still drifting on. Ah, lullaby hummed up, a lullaby hummed by a woman to her sleepy son. The laughter of a young couple wrapped in each other's arms beneath the window, and beyond it all, the wind, always the wind. Brushing across the stones, rustling the dry ivy, moving through the trees. You are still part of the wedding, but now, you are also part of the castle, part of the centuries that have passed through it like mist, part of the thousands who came to feast and fell, asleep smiling. Your hands grow still, your thoughts drift loose like feathers, and the room grows dimmer. Softer the candle flickers its final light, and you are at peace. You are full, you are remembered, you are loved. The candle has gone out, but you remain, wrapped in stillness, not fully asleep, not fully awake. You are somewhere in between, suspended in a dream where nothing presses, nothing rushes. The castle no longer surrounds you with stone and noise, with memory. Its warmth is in your bones now. The soft weight of the woolen blanket, the distant echo of laughter, the whisper of wind threading through. Rafters you breathe, and slowly an scent rises from the dark. Baked apples and cinnamon. You're dreaming. Yes, but the feast has not ended. Not quite. You find yourself once more in the heart of the celebration. But now the hall has changed again. Everything is quieter, calmer, as if it's no longer the night of a wedding, but the recollection of one. Everything glows with a soft light, not candlelight now, but something gentler, as though the memory itself is illuminated from within. There are people still gathered, but fewer now, and none of them speak. They smile, they raise their goblets, but their voices are hushed like the rustling of pages. You walk slowly through the room, and as you do, you notice something. Each guest here is sharing food with someone else. There are no grand platters now, only small bowls passed hand to hand, little bundles of herbs, a wedge of cheese wrapped in cloth, a tiny honeycomb. Still warm from the hive, they are not feasting for hunger. Anymore, they are feasting for closeness, for remembering, for love. And this is part of the tradition, the quiet sharing at the end of all things. One of the elders, a woman in a deep green gown, her silver hair braided with thread, beckons to you. You approach, and she hands you something wrapped in linen. It's warm. You unfold it slowly, carefully. Like a gift inside is a single oat cake, round, thick, imprinted with a carved stamp, a knotwork design of endless loops and interwoven vines. She smiles, and you know, without a word spoken, that this is her family's wedding bread. It has been made the same way for generations, with oats and butter, and just a touch of salt from the sea. She wants you to have it, so you break off a piece and eat. It is dry but comforting, the kind of food made for journeys or long winters. You feel it settle in your belly like a promise. You wander to a small window alcove now, where the stone is cold, but the cushions are warm from where others have sat before. The window is open, just a crack, and beyond it, the sky is beginning to pale. Dawn is near, but it does not arrive quickly, does not push away the night. Instead, it comes like lace unraveling, soft threads of lavender, slate, and ash gray drifting across the sky. A cock crows once far off, barely audible. Another echo answers it from deeper in the valley, and so begins the slow exhale of night. Inside, the servants are beginning to stir again. Quiet feet, low voices, the smell of bread. Being needed for morning loaves, you rise from your place and walk past the fire. Now nothing but glowing red embers, and toward the high table once more. It is empty now. The bride and groom are gone. Their feast complete, their vows sealed, not just with words, but with warmth and welcome, wine and bread. The silk canopy still hangs above, gently swaying in a draft that hums along the hall's spine like a flute note. You step beneath it just for a moment, and standing there, you close your eyes. You feel what they must have felt. Not grandeur, not ceremony, but the slow, grounding joy of beginning a life, of being seen, fed, blessed, not just by one another, but by everyone who sat at this long carved table. In the courtyard, the horses stamped quietly. Their breath fogs the air. The gates are still closed, but you hear them creak just once, as though preparing to open. It's almost time to leave. Not out of urgency, no, but because the story is nearing its end. Even the longest feasts, the warmest fires, the deepest dreams must find their stillness, but you will carry it with you. The taste of honey and rosemary, the hush of a shared story beside a flickering hearth, the feeling of being given food, not for show, but for love. Someone places a shawl over your shoulders. You don't know who. Perhaps a guest, perhaps a ghost, perhaps just a fragment of the dream itself, but it warms you all the same. You take a step toward the door, the last of The candlelight plays across the stone floor, and you feel fully, deeply, truthfully, that you have been part of something sacred. Not because it was grand, not because it was royal, but because it was human. A meal, a night, a gathering that fed more than the body. As you walk through the shadowed archway, the scent of the feast lingers on your skin. Smoke, bread, apples, cheese, herbs, warm. It is a perfume made of memory, and when the door closes behind you, you do not wake. Not yet. You only drift into a deeper, stillness, a slower heartbeat, a longer dream. Second story lists royal weddings and medieval castles. Silk, strategy and silent stake, a slow breath in and a slow breath out wherever you are. Allow your shoulders to soften, let your eyes grow heavy. Feel the quiet hush of twilight settling over your room, like a velvet curtain being drawn across a tall window. Imagine now the distant toll of a castle bell, soft, mellow, it's far away. Its echo lingers like a dream. You are safe here, the past cannot reach you, but tonight we'll gently walk through it. Tonight's story is not about war or conquest. It is not about battles or bold declarations. No, tonight's story is about silence. Silk-canned strategy hidden behind smiles. Our story today begins in the hushed corridors of a castle so old, the ivy clinging to its stone walls feels like part of its very bones. Narration begins scene, setting our story begins in the heart of spring. In the year 1392, the kingdom is quiet under a silver sky. The meadows are damp with dew, and birdsong dances gently through the morning mist. But inside the high walls of Castle Westonford, the world stirs slowly, carefully. This is no ordinary morning. This is the morning of a royal wedding. Westonford is a castle of old, stones and quiet rules. Its corridors are wide, echoing softly with the footsteps of servants gliding like shadows. Tapestries hang from every wall, their rich colors muted in the cool gray light filtering through the arrow-slit windows. They show tales of long-dead kings, of dragons defeated, and treaties sealed with rings instead of swords. In the West Tower, where the morning light falls, most kindly, a young princess rises. Her name is Isolde. She has eyes like a cloudy sky before rain and hair the color of crushed chestnuts, wound now into heavy braids by gentle hands. She does not smile today, but she does not frown either. She has been taught the ways of queenship since she could walk, to listen more than speak, to observe, to understand power, not as a flame, but as a candle under glass, steady, silent, and enduring. Outside her chamber, the halls are lined with velvet. Servants move with precision, their hands full of lavender water. Silver trays and folded silks the color of rose ash and deep wine. Everything smells faintly of beeswax, blooming rosemary, and old parchment. Atmospheric. Pause, a breathing moment. Pause here for a moment. Can you hear the hush? The rustle of fabric, the soft clink of silver on stone, the wind slipping like a whisper through the stained glass slits above the chapel. There is no rush, only the slow unfolding of ceremony, like petals opening, by one each moment gently placed. Beside the next narration continues, introducing the marriage today. Princess Isolde will marry Duke Ranald of Cathermore. She has met him only once under the flicker of torchlight, at a feast where no one dared speak freely. His voice was low. His hands were gloved. He smelled faintly of myrrh, pine. This marriage is not for love. It is for peace, the king. Isolde's father is old. His lands border 3 hungry provinces. But Cathermore, ruled by Renault's house, is rich in iron. And in patience, their armies move like shadows, swift and silent. An alliance means stability. And so today, Isolde wears the silk of surrender, but she walks with the spine of a queen. Scene, the bridal dressing ritual. The chambermaids are silent as they prepare her gown, layer by layer. It is assembled like armor made of moonlight. First, a chemise of softest flax, kissed with threads of gold. Then, the kirtle, a deep sapphire blue, heavy with embroidery. Next, the surcoat, a sleeveless drape of white velvet, edged with pearls. And Finally, the girdle, it rests around her waist like a binding vow adorned with silver filigree, and a single glass pendant, cold as ice. No one speaks as the final veil is placed. It is sheer as mist. Fastened with a pin carved from whalebone, the princess breathes. Deeply, her hands do not tremble. She has practiced this stillness, day after day, under the watchful eyes of her tutors and the murmurs of court. Seen a castle awakens below her. Tower. The castle begins to hum. Musicians arrive in cloaks of black and brass. Their instruments are wrapped in linen to protect. Against the damp, the chapel is being dressed not with flowers, but with branches of white hawthorn, fragrant and sharp. Candles are lit, one by one, their tiny flames flickering like stars in the kitchens. A fire has been burning since dawn. Goose turns slowly on a spit. Honeyed almonds are being folded into warm oat cakes. Mulled wine simmers, scenting the air with clove and orange peel. But none of this reaches Isolde. She hears only the chapel bell. Begin, it's slow. Deliberate tolling, 9 chimes, then 10, then silence. It is time. The hallway leading to the chapel is long and dim. Torches glow in iron sconces, casting amber light on the stone floor. Each step echoes. Isolde walks between 2 women. Her governess and her aunt, both silent, both pale as she walks. She feels the weight of the veil tug gently at her braid. She thinks of her mother long buried in the eastern crypt. She thinks of the quiet lessons. She was taught as a girl how to hold a goblet without spilling, how to bow without bending, how to offer your silence as a gift inside the chapel. Everything glows. The stained glass spills jeweled light across the floor. Sapphires and rubies. Gown as she steps forward. The Duke is waiting, tall and still. His hands folded over his sword. He does not smile, neither does she. The priest speaks, Latin in a voice that sounds like the wind stirring pages. Each word falls like a drop of rain in a still pond. A ring is given cold. Narrow iron, a vow is spoken. Ancient, brief, binding, a kiss is not required. Only a nod, and then, just like that, the ceremony is done. Not one cheer is raised, not a single. Hand claps, only the bell tolls once more. 12 chimes. The old king watches with eyes, like slate. The courtiers bow like reeds in wind, and Isolde, now Duchess of Cathermore, turns toward her future with the poise of someone walking into a fog. Calm, prepared, silent. That evening, the castle feasts but gently. No minstrels sing Bodhi songs. No dancers leap, instead. Harpists play in corners and nobles speak in tones like velvet. Isolde sits beside her husband, her goblet untouched. She watches the candlelight flicker across the stone. Across faces, across the heavy silver platters, she smiles once. A small, secret smile, not of joy, but of knowing. This is not the end of her story, only the quiet beginning. And now, as the castle dims and the fires crackle lows, the last lanterns are extinguished in the corridor, and as the wind brushes against the shutters with a gentle hand. Let your breath soften, let your thoughts settle like dust in a quiet hall. Feel the hush of that great castle around you, stone walls, silken veils, unspoken truths. You are safe here, and it is time to sleep. Let your body soften again. Sink into the pillows as if you were sinking into thick velvet. Let the hush settle once more around you like a wool cloak laid gently over your shoulders. The fire still crackles in the great hall. Outside the castle is dark, but inside, inside. Our story continues. The wedding feast fades into shadows. Slowly, the nobles withdraw to their guest quarters. One by one, their footsteps vanish down side corridors. And the last silver goblet is lifted from the table now. The fire burns low in the hearth. Amber coals glow like quiet embers of the days-long rituals. Isolde is escorted to the solar, the private chamber above the chapel. It is high in the east wing, where the night wind sings through the arrow. Slits like a choir of reeds. The bed is large, draped in crimson and lined with fox fur blankets. Candles have been placed on every ledge and table, their flames flickering with a soft golden rhythm like breath. She sits quietly on the edge, her shoes removed, her veil folded neatly beside her. The gown has been loosened, and her hair unbraided, falling in long ribbons over her shoulders. Reynold enters without a sound. He does not speak. Instead, he pours a measure of mead into a single silver cup, lifts it to her lips, then drinks from the same cup, a small gesture, symbolic sufficient. Then he bows just slightly and steps away. Settling in a chair near the hearth, there will be no passion. Tonight, only proximity. The treaty is sealed. The silence is honored. The castle does not change overnight, but subtle shifts occur, like snow melting slowly into river water. Reynold brings with him 3 trusted advisors. They do not smile, but they watch everything. The steward's scrolls begin to list new inventories, iron shipments from Cathermore, lumber rerouted from Wessenford's forests. The marriage has become action, treaty made flesh, and yet Princess Isolde, now Duchess, does not retreat. She walks the gardens every morning, wrapped in a mantle of dove-gray wool. The castle walls echo her steps, but she remains undisturbed. She visits the chapel at dawn, kneeling not to pray, but to listen. She listens to the drafty sigh of old stones, to the faint hum of wind moving through carved pews, to the hush that gathers in places too ancient for words. Behind the south courtyard lies a hidden garden. Few know of it, a place once planted for the queen, long since past, there behind a low wall of crumbling limestone. The air is warmer. The breeze carries the scent of thyme and crushed violet. A small bench rests beneath an apple tree, twisted by time. Isolde discovers it by accident one morning, following a sparrow. The garden is overgrown, but not wild. It feels waiting. He begins to return each morning, not to escape, to think. She brings books of courtly poetry, though she rarely reads them. She brings breadcrumbs for the birds. She brings silence here. She is still watched. She knows this, but not so closely. Here, she lets her thoughts open like scrolls in candlelight. 1 week after the wedding, a letter arrives from Cathermore's southern border. It is sealed with wax, stamped with a wolf's head crest. Reynold opens it without expression. He reads it 3 times. Isolde watches from the long table, her hands still. Later that evening, the Duke invites her to sit with him in the upper library, a room thick with the scent of aged paper, ink and dust. It is the first time he speaks at length. There may be unrest, he says simply. No threat yet, only movement. Isolde meets his eyes, gray like winter water. What will you do? He pauses. What would you advise? It is a test. She knows this, so she answers carefully. Movement is not always march. It may be maneuver. Wait, observe. A silence stretches. Then he nods once, the smallest gesture, but it is the beginning of a conversation. Over the following days, Isolde becomes a presence in more than name. She begins to sit in on council meetings, not at the table, but near the windows. She listens, she learns, she asks nothing. She asks nothing until asked. And when she does speak, it is only to clarify. Never to contradict, but her silence holds weight. She becomes the space into which others speak wisely. Reynold does not stop her, nor does he encourage her, but she senses a shift. Each evening, the mead cup is shared, and each morning a fresh bloom is left near her window. Wildflowers, never roses. Take a slow breath now. Feel the hush of stone, corridors around you, the softness of moss beneath bare feet, the hush of a page being turned in the candlelight. Can you hear the wind in the garden? Can you hear the distant caw of a rook? Settling into the battlements. Let the quiet press gently against your skin. Let it fill your thoughts with calm, like rain falling on rooftops far, far away. One morning, a horn sounds from the north gate. A guest has arrived. The standard they carry is green and black, the sigil of House Meriden, the Duke's uncle. an old hawk with gold eyes, Meriden is known for speaking sharply and laughing rarely. He is not here to bless the marriage. He is here to test it over supper. He watches Isolde closely. She meets his stare with a gaze neither warm nor cold, only steady. He speaks in riddles. She answers in plain truth. The game begins. Later, when the fire dies low, Meriden leans toward the Duke and mutters, "Steel and silk, that one. Be wary or be wise." Reynold only nods. "I am both," he says. By the third week of marriage, Isolde begins sending letters, not love notes, but inquiries. 2 ABBOTS, 2 merchant guilds, 2 herbalists in the south, each written in her fine hand. Sealed with wax, marked with her own crest, a quill and fern. She is building something. A web, perhaps, or a cushion. Something to catch what might fall. And always. She walks the hidden garden. The birds know her now. Even the wind seems to carry her name. One night, as frost begins to silver the windows, Isolde hears a soft knock at her chamber door. It opens to reveal a servant young, pale eyes wide. He says only come, quietly. She follows without question, down the side stairs, through the tapestry. Corridor past the room where her mother once read fairy tales aloud. They enter a hidden chamber, once a wine store, now a place for private words. Renault is already there. He holds a map. His finger traces a river bend near the border. There was movement, he says quietly, but not war. Something else. She studies the map. Not the lines, but the absences. There's something they expect us not to see. She murmurs. A nod. Reina LT folds the map. We will ride at dawn. He looks at her carefully. Will you come? She answers, yes. And so the castle dims again. The fire crackles, low the wind brushes against the high towers like an invisible hand. The newlywed duchess dreams not of flowers or feasts, but of forests. Of messages hidden in silence, of choices dressed in velvet. And as the night deepens, as you breathe softer, as your limbs grow heavy, and your thoughts begin to drift quiet, strong, ready, torches hiss softly in the wind, and horses stamp their hooves in the courtyard below. Their breath curls in the morning air like smoke from a pipe. Saddles creak, buckles click, woolen cloaks are drawn tighter against the chill. Isolde stands at the top of the stair, wrapped in a cloak of Cathermore green. Her first time wearing its colors in public. Her hair is bound in a single braid. Her boots are soft leather, lined with lambed well. At her belt hangs a small dagger, ceremonial metal stones, polished, unused. She descends without speaking. Reynold stands near the gatehouse. Already mounted, he watches her approach with a nod that says more than words ever could. No banners. Fly, no trumpet sound. This is a quiet departure, a journey made not for spectacle, but for truth. The drawbridge lowers with a slow groan. A raven calls once from the tower, and then the party rides. The countryside unfolds in shades of frost and stone. To the west, the fields stretch out like a patchwork quilt, stitched with low stone walls and hedgerows dusted in snow. To the east, the forests loom dark and whispering. It's like old men sharing secrets. The horses move at a steady trot. Their riders speak little. Isolde rides near Renault. Her posture straight. Her face calm, but her eyes move constantly, not with suspicion, but with curiosity. She is reading the land at midday. They stop by a frozen stream. Bread and dried cherries are shared from saddlebags. A flask of sweetened wine is passed between gloved hands, even in stillness. The silence is deliberate, not empty, but full of watching. By late afternoon, the party arrives at a hamlet nestled near an old WATCHTOWE. It is not marked on most maps, but Ranald knew it would be there. That is where the movement was last seen. Riders unknown, symbols unrecognized. The villagers are wary but respectful. Their eyes flick toward Isolde, then lower quickly. A council is held in the inn cellar. Beneath low-beamed ceilings and hanging bunches of drying herbs, A single lantern flickers in the corner, casting soft shadows on the stone walls. "We found no banners," says a scout. "No. Steel. No blood. Just men. Quiet ones. Watching smugglers." Someone asks. "Not likely," says Reynolds. "To clean. To prepared." Isolde listens from the shadows. She speaks slowly. Perhaps they want to be mistaken for something else. Something ordinary. The room quiets. A few heads nod. Reynolds meets her gaze, and this time, his silence feels like agreement. That night, Isolde cannot sleep. She lies in a bed too short for her limbs. In a room that smells of peat smoke and old wool, the window is cracked, and the wind whistles softly through the gap. She rises and wraps a cloak around her shoulders. Outside, sky is alive with stars, thousands of tiny fires burning in. The velvet dark. She walks quietly to the old WATCHTOWER. Inside, the stairs spiral tightly upward, worn smooth by centuries of guardsmen's boots at the top. She stands alone. Below her, the land stretches into shadow. She can almost hear the forest. Breathing behind her, she hears footsteps. Renault. He does not speak. He simply stands beside her, looking out at the same horizon. Then after a long silence, he says, "My mother once told me, never trust what arrives in silence, unless you are the one who sent." Isolde looks toward the woods. Then we must learn to speak that silence ourselves. The journey back is slower. The weather has turned. Snow falls in soft flurries, covering hoofprints and softening the path. The world grows quiet, not from danger, but from winter's hush. When they reach Wessenford's gates, the guards light torches high along the walls. The castle glows like a hearth in the cold. Dusk. No announcements are made, but within hours, rumors spread. The Duke and Duchess ride together. She wears Cathermore's green. She stood beside him at the tower. Whispers can be louder than bells. Winter deepens. The castle moves into its slow rhythm meals by firelight, letters exchanged with gloved hands. The distant clang of armor in the practice yard muffled by falling snow. Isolde oversees the kitchens. Now, not as ruler, but as steward, she walks the stores with the head cook, inspects the preserves, watches the grain weighed carefully into linen sacks. She learns the name of every girl in the laundry hall. She walks the servants' passageways and listens to their laughter in the warmth of their own hearths. She becomes a duchess, not by title, but by presence. One evening, near midwinter, Isolde and Reynolds sit in the solar. The fire crackles. The windows are thick with frost. Between them rests a chessboard, ivory and jet. It's carved with small griffins and towers. They play in silence, save for the gentle clink of each piece. It is Isolde's. "Move." She considers the board then, without a word. She moves her knight. Renault watches, smiles barely, encounters later. When the game ends in draw, he says, "You think like a general." She replies, "No, I think like a daughter who's been traded for peace." He says nothing, but he doesn't look away. News arrives wrapped in black wax. The king, Isolde's father, is gravely ill. A fever, swift and unrelenting. She rides alone to Wessenford Keep, escorted by only 2 guards and her steward, not in mourning black, but in quiet gray. When she arrives, the halls feel hollow. She finds him in the solar, propped by pillows, his eyes dim, but still watchful. "My clever girl," he rasps. She sits beside him and takes his hand. "You made the right match," he whispers. "Not for love, for the realm." 8. That is enough. Isolde nods, but her eyes are wet. Let the castle fade again from sight, the snow falling soft outside shuttered windows, with the flames curling low in a winter hearth. The cold stone warmed only by breath and flickering light. Can you feel it? That sacred hush of deep winter. Let your breathing slow. Let your muscles soften. Let your thoughts rest like feathers on silk. Back in Cathermore, the Duchess returns stronger than she left. She brings with her a new treaty not signed. but spoken and understanding whispered between. To courts, that silence can be a language of strength. Renault meets her at the gate, his cloak dusted with snow. "You returned?" I said I would. "That is enough." Inside, the great hall is quiet, not empty, simply calm, and overhead. On the high stone walls hang two banner Swesford's stag and Cathermore's sword, side by side, at last. "You're doing beautifully. Let yourself relax even more deeply now. Sink beneath the softest quilts of sleep, like velvet draped across your thoughts. The fire still flickers gently. The world beyond these castle walls grows ever more quiet." And we return now to the high stone chambers of Wessenford and Cathermore, where winter lingers. But something new begins to stir beneath the frost. The castle prepares for midwinter. It is not a feast for fanfare, but for subtlety. The halls are dressed in evergreen garlands, twined with red berries and soft ribbons, the color of ash and snow. Fir branches scent the air, candles line stairways like constellations in a narrow sky. Isolde oversees the preparations. Herself, no golden ornaments, no trumpets, only warmth. She chooses foods that can be shared by all. From steward to stable boy, pies are filled with apples and cinnamon. Spiced cider is poured into wooden cups. Steaming and sweet, she walks among the servants during the decorating, sharing nods and quiet thanks. And later that night, when the fire roars in the great hearth, she sits not at the head table, but beside the children near the musicians. Corner, the people begin to whisper again. She sees everything. She sees us. Days after the feast, Isolde visits the West Library, a cold, forgotten room where books sit untouched by any but scholars. It is here she finds an old volume bound in gray leather. The crest on its spine is not one she recognizes. Inside, records.marriagecontracts.dowries. Treaties posed as romance, she reads slowly. By the light of a tall candelabra, pages and pages of women traded for peace of silence. Kept of power wielded softly, she feels not sadness, but connection. These were her ancestors, in name or in spirit. Their quiet echoes live in the margins, as the candle wax pools and hardens. She closes the book and knows that her story is only just beginning. Reynolds, too, has changed, though never warm. He has become stiller in her presence, not frozen, but deep. His words are fewer, but weightier. He asks questions more than he gives orders. One morning, while sparring with his captains, he invites Isolde to watch. She does later at supper. He says, "You see weakness where others see routine." She replies, "And you see strength where others see stillness." They share a long silence. It is somehow intimate. The snow begins to retreat. Icicles drip from the arches like silver tears, and crocuses bloom shyly along the garden wall. Tiny messengers of warmer days. Isolde returns to the secret garden. Each morning, the birds are louder now. The tree is budding again. She brings with her new scrolls. Reports from trade routes. Updates on the miller's grain yields. She reads aloud to herself, but softly, as if not to wake the roots. Behind the garden wall, a small alcove is cleaned and repaired. She instructs the carpenter to add a bench. Sheltered from rain, it is not for her. It is for what may come. It begins with silence, A few days missed, a queasiness that doesn't pass. Then the physician confirms it. She is with child. Isolde does not weep. She does not tremble. She sits for a long time, staring at the winter sun on the stone floor. Then she rises. The Duke is told at once. His reaction is unreadable. Only this: he places one hand gently on her shoulder, says nothing, and walks with her into the garden. There, in the hush, they sit beneath the tree that now bursts with white blossoms. They do not speak, but they sit close. The castle shifts again. Midwives are brought quietly from trusted families. Physicians' visits become regular but discreet. Meals are adjusted. Letters are fewer, but more carefully worded. A child changes more than Bloodlines. It alters the rhythm of silence. Reynolds' counsel becomes tighter, fewer voices, more measured tones. Isolde meets more frequently with the steward. She orders new inventories. She moves. Coin carefully. In her own way, she prepares a cradle not of wood but of power. One evening, as dusk turns the sky lavender and gray, Renault gives her a gift. It is a book, not new, bound in brown leather. Inside, blank pages for names. He says not just our child's, but those who should not be forgotten. She runs her fingers over the empty parchment. Will you help me fill it? She asks. He nods. Always. Now take a deep breath and let it out softly. Can you hear the gentle rustle of spring leaves? The soft, distant knock of a woodpecker? The chirping of sparrows nesting near the chapel gable? The air is warmer now. The snow has melted from the battlements, and the great hall no longer echoes. It murmurs with low conversation and the scent of early roses. Let yourself feel the slow rhythm of this castle's breath, soft, steady, safe, late. In the spring, courier arrives bearing a sealed message. It is not from a king, not from a court, but from the abbess of a remote convent. It speaks of a dispute over land, writes nothing unusual, but the final line is strange. There is a root rotting. Beneath Cathermore's East Hill, be swift, or the orchard dies. Isolde reads it 3 times. Then she sends for the Duke. That night, they walk the battlements together. The moon high and silent overhead. There's something old, she says, older than treaties, buried. Adult frowns. We've held those lands for decades. Exactly, she says. No one fights over dead ground unless there's something breathing beneath it. He studies her in the moonlight. We ride at first light. The eastern hill is a quiet place. Grazing sheep, a few withered trees, a small orchard of gnarled pears, but beneath it, something stirs. A series of underground tunnels is discovered, long forgotten. Once used by smugglers, now used again. Caches of stolen weaponry, coins minted not by Cathermore, but by a long-dead rival house. Someone is planning something, not war. Not yet. But fracture. Isolde runs her fingers along the stones. She feels the echo of secrets left too. Long in silence, the hill is secured, the tunnel sealed, the orchard planted. Word spreads, not of the tunnels those are kept, quiet, but of the Duchess's foresight, of her listening. Allies come more willingly now, and enemies hesitate in the garden. Isolde adds a new plant beside the apple tree, a seedling pear. It grows quickly in the spring sun as she waters it. Her hand rests gently on her rounded belly. The future no longer whispers, it speaks. You're doing so well. Let's descend gently again. Back through ivy-draped towers and candlelit halls, to a world where silk whispers through corridors. Futures are shaped by hands that seldom raise a sword. Your breath is calm, the night is soft, and the Duchess is watching her daughter grow. One morning before the sun has risen fully, a messenger arrives bearing royal colors. Not a scroll this time, but parchment wrapped in silk, sealed with the Queen's own crest. Isolde reads it slowly beneath the tall window of her study. It is gracious, measured, but not idle. The Queen, new to her crown, younger than Isolde, writes of peace, of future harmony, of shared influence. Isolde understands the tone, diplomacy, cautious and sweet. She writes back the next morning, 3 lines only. Peace is woven, not declared. We are already weaving, no seal, no flourish, only a single pressed blossom tucked between the folds of parchment. A pear blossom, Illyra, now 3, has begun asking questions. Why do towers reach the sky? Do the guards get tired? Why is the steward always grumpy? Isolde answers each one with care, not with facts, but with stories. She tells of builders who wanted to touch the stars, of guards who dream beneath their helmets, of stewards who love numbers the way poets love verses. And Illyra listens. Eyes round, her laughter soft. At night, they sit near the hearth, Isolde tells her fairy tales. Yes, but also true ones, of women who ruled gardens, cities, and kingdoms. With stillness, in early spring, a hunter returns from the northern woods with an odd tale. He saw riders not local, no banners, no sounds, but their formation was military, their discipline was precise. When he tried to follow, they vanished. Reynold. Here's the report, frowns Isolde. Stands by the hearth, warming her hands. We prepare, she says. Shall I summon the guard? He asks. No, she replies. Summon the shepherds. They see more than soldiers do. The next day, messages are quietly sent. Within a week, dozen reports come in, all confirming movement in the woods. A shadow forming. No one has drawn a blade, but silence again speaks first. Isolde does not wait idly. She convenes her quiet council, the steward, the head gardener, to abbey scribes, and a healer. They meet not in the great hall, but the cloister garden. There, between vines and echoing birdsong, they plan no armies, no walls, just trade route diversions. Merchant. Radicatus. And across that net, without strings, and across that net, they spread not swords, but stillness. The woods grow quiet again. The riders vanish. No battle, no banners, just a breath held, and then released. One golden afternoon, a rider in crimson arrives, not from the court, from the south, a coastal duchy known more for wine than warfare. He brings gifts, salted fish, carved ivory, and letters of interest. The Duke wishes an alliance not urgent, but sincere. Isolde and Reynold meet with him over a modest meal, roasted roots, warm bread, honey. The envoy speaks in riddles. Isolde answers in parables. Finally, over spiced mead, the envoy leans forward. They say, your silence is louder than a king's roar. Isolde smiles. And your mead is stronger than your intent. Shall we toast to clarity? They do, and the papers are left unsigned, but the goodwill lingers like firelight on the stone walls in the east wing. A small room is cleared, rugs are laid, a desk built from cedar and iron. This is Alira's classroom now, each morning. She is taught by one of 5 teachers. The scribe teaches letters, the steward teaches counting, the abbess teaches compassion, the huntsman teaches stillness, and her mother teaches listening. Lessons are brief, but meaningful. One day she asks, why do we learn in silence? Isolde answers, because silence lets us hear more than noise ever will. Let yourself pause again. You hear the soft wind brushing through the orchard leaves, the quiet pluck of a lute echoing from the open windows of the library, the rhythm of quill on parchment, soft as falling petals. Breathe slowly. In this castle, nothing hurries. Even change moves like a tide beneath the stone, steady, unseen. But certain, let your thoughts drift like petals in a stream. Let stillness carry you. One evening, while sorting scrolls, Isolde finds a letter tucked behind an old map. It is unsigned. It's marked only with an inked fern. She reads it once, then again. It warns of a lord gathering ships quietly, without royal sanction. Far in the west, she does not share it with Reynold immediately. Instead, she writes a letter not of alarm, but of inquiry. She sends it by hand with no seal. Only a sprig of lavender. Weeks past. No answer, then a reply. Also unsigned, we are watching. Isolde places both letters in the gray leather book. History, she knows, is not always written in ink. Sometimes, it's pressed between pages. Waiting. The old steward retires. His replacement is young, barely more than a boy, but with eyes sharp as flint. Isolde does not test him. She invites him for tea. They speak of nothing then. Quietly she asks, where does the river begin? He blinks, then answers, not where it flows fastest, where it gathers first. She smiles. You'll do. He stays, and soon the castle's scrolls grow tidier. But more importantly, wiser. That night, Isolde sits alone by the hearth. Illyra is asleep. Renault reads nearby. It's heavy. The fire crackles. She thinks not of war, not of peace, but of fruit. How it grows slowly, silently sweetest. When no one rushes it, she smiles. And from the window she sees the pear tree in bloom once more and knows there is still more story to tell. In the first golden days of summer, a parchment arrives. It is stiff with wax and scented with pine, an invitation from house. Drelmer, rulers of the northern Valesto, a summer gathering, not just nobles, scholars, minstrels, daughters of rival. Houses a courtship festival. Isolde reads it in silence. Illyra plays with a carved fox at her feet. Renault looks up from his scroll. You'll go, she replies. We'll go, as watchers, not players. Their journey north winds through valleys thick with summer bloom poppies, willows. Trailing like silk into slow-moving rivers, Illyra rides with Isolde in a small carriage, draped in linen to keep out dust. She watches the world through a slit. In the curtain, quiet and alert, Renault rides ahead, his cloak snapping softly in the breeze. No banners, only a single sigil stitched in silver. The Cathermore sword and fern by night. They rest beneath the stars. The servants pitch tents near old ruins. The wind hums through grass. One night, Isolde wakes and walks outside. She finds Renault sitting near the coals. Do you miss war? She asks. No, he says. I miss purpose. Tosses a twig into the flame. Then let's give peace more purpose. The keep at Greystone is massive, built of pale stone, carved with beasts and old gods. Its banners flap lazily in the summer wind. Music plays softly from within its open walls, lutes and red pipes. Guests arrive in wagons on horseback. And by foot, bright colors, laughter. Isolde enters with calm grace. Her gown is simple, silver gray, edged with green stitching, her hair braided with ribbons the color of ash. Illyra walks beside her, holding a small book of pressed flowers. They are noticed immediately, but not surrounded. No one dares overwhelm the silence they carry. On the second day, games are held not for children, for diplomacy. Chess with live pieces. Riddle. Contests, judged by abbots. Strategic debates. Scored in silence by scribes. Isolde is invited to participate. She declines, but she sends Illyra in her place, paired. With the steward's niece, they lose the first match, win the second. In the third, Illyra pauses, then forfeits. Why? The host asks gently. She replies, because silence teaches more than victory. The crowd murmurs, and for the rest of the day, strangers bow when they pass the Cathermore table. Each night, suitors are introduced, daughters brought forward, names exchanged like currency. Isolde watches from a balcony, sipping chilled cider. One girl, dark-eyed and clever, makes no move to impress. Who is she? Isolde asks. A baron's youngest, a whisper replies. Too poor for dowry, too sharp for flattery. Isolde smiles. She outlasts them all. Later she speaks with the girl beneath the apple trees. No promises, only curiosity. And perhaps a quiet future offer of letters. When the time is right, Renault finds Isolde sitting in the old chapel ruins one evening. No. Roof dot only stars. They sit on cool stone and speak without urgency. She wants to learn archery, he says. Then teach her, and if she wants to ride alone, let her. Studies her. You're different here. She shakes her head. I'm just quieter. They sit until the stars shift, and somewhere an owl calls through the dark. Close your eyes now. Can you feel the stone bench beneath the sky? Can you hear the breeze shifting through ivy-covered arches? The echo of a reed flute from a distant balcony? Breathe. Let this moment linger, still and holy, like a prayer unsaid, like a treaty made in the hush of candlelight. You are safe here. Let silence cradle you. They return not with fanfare, but with fruit. Baskets of plum and fig, seeds from the north, new parchment. New letters. Elira carries a feather she found near the ruins. She tucks it into the gray leather book beside her mother's old letter. The steward begins building a new wing, not for guards. For scholars, Isolde begins drafting plans for a school, not of battle, a wisdom, where every child, noble or not, may learn history, observation, diplomacy, not loud, not grand, but lasting. A letter arrives weeks later, its seal, a fox wrapped in thistle, inside, a proposal. A distant house, once neutral, now in need, wishes to ally through trade, not war. Grain. Ink. Books. Isolde studies. The crest. It once belonged to a family her own displaced. Generations ago, she writes only this: what was taken in noise. We return in quiet and send 6 wagons of cloth and ink to the mountains. Without escort, without demand, just trust. That night, Isolde walks the garden. The apple tree sways. The pear tree drops a single ripe fruit onto the grass. She picks it up, takes a bite, sweet, cool, grounded. She hears Elira giggle from the window above and looks up. Smiling, the moon lights her silver hair. The silence embraces her like an old friend. And the castle breathes, ready for whatever comes next. The wind begins to shift. Leaves drift down like parchment from the tree's copper. It's gold and crimson. The orchard hums with bees preparing for rest. The sky deepens into silver in Cathermore. The hearths are lit earlier each day. Wool is unpacked. New candles are poured. Elira sits at the long window, watching the garden fade into fall. Will the trees be lonely in winter? She asks. Isolde answers, no, they're not dying. They're listening, and together, they watch the pear tree shed its last. Lafolier's lessons grow more complex. Isolde brings her to quiet meetings, not to speak, but to sit, to watch. A merchant from the west offers a generous grain exchange. Too generous. Isolde counters not with words, but with silence. She sips tea, waits. The merchant speaks again, this time truer. Later, Elira asks, why didn't you answer him? Isolde replies, because he needed to hear his own voice. Before mine. Lyra writes that down in her flower book. Silence is not absence. It's a mirror. The abbess arrives with scrolls of weather predictions. A hard winter ahead, Isolde orders. Supplies early and quietly. She redirects coin to the village baker, the midwives, the stables. The castle prepares not just for itself, but for its people. Wool is distributed. Oil is shared. Bread is promised. Reynault watches her by the fire. We are not rich. She nods, but we are warm. And warmth, she knows, buys loyalty faster than gold. In early frost, as the steward's daughter falls ill, word spreads. Quietly, Isolde visits with the healer. She does not send for a court physician. She brings honey. Warm stones, soft cloth. She sits beside the child's bed, reads softly from old tales. When the girl wakes, Ree asks, is the Duchess real? Isolde smiles. I'm quieter than they say. The girl nods, then falls back to sleep, safe beneath wool and story. It becomes known Cathermore does not send banners to conquer, but it sends bread before threat, shelter before snow, and that becomes its legend. People speak of a duchess who never raises her voice, and yet moves armies of change with only a letter. A child who studies not swords, but maps and mercy. A duke who smiles rarely, but walks the markets each frost morning with his cloak open to the cold. Power here hums like harp strings, subtle, unmistakable. One foggy morning, during a routine council, visiting noble speaks carelessly. Your daughter is still just a child. Elira, now 6, looks up from her quiet corner. She says, even saplings know which way the light comes. The room falls still, the noble stares, and Reynault chuckles, deep and surprised. After that day, a second chair is added beside Isolde's. Not high, but present. Let your breath grow soft again. You're in the long hall now, where firelight flickers. Against stone, outside, frost paints the glass with delicate fingers. Inside, the hearth crackles low. Can you hear the quill scratching over parchment? The gentle clink of teacups beside thick books. The whisper of wool skirts on cold floors. Let yourself sink, heavier now, as though wrapped in fur, beneath a ceiling of carved wooden, a scent of dried thyme and ink. This is stillness. This is safety. This is the breath before a page turns. A. Scout returns from the border. No threats, only movement. A. This minor house has changed allegiance, not war, but strategy. Isolde lights a candle and writes 3 letters, each one simple, each one different. To the house's new allies, she sends congratulations too. The merchants near the border, she offers fairer terms. And to the family who left her fold, she sends nothing. Sometimes, silence is the sharpest reply. Snow falls, heavy and slow, blanketing the world in white. Breath, children play, the orchard sleeps, the castle's outer walls are softened with frost. Isolde takes the lyra to the highest tower. They look out over the forest. It looks like peace, Illyra says. Isolde replies. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just a pause. Illyra nods, thoughtful, then adds, let's make it peace anyway. There is no winter banquet. Instead, Cathermore hosts a night of lanterns. No speeches, no music, just food. Light. Every family in the valley receives an invitation. They arrive wrapped in cloaks, carrying bread, candles, flowers. The orchard is lit with hundreds of floating flames. Illyra walks among them, holding a pear. She places it gently at the foot of the tree and whispers, "For all who planted before us." Isolde, watching, says nothing, but her eyes shine like frost. On silver, the third snowfall brings a traveler. No crest, no guards, only thick boots. A leather satchel and a bow finely made for a common hunter. He knocks once, then waits. The guard calls him quiet as shadow, cold as stone. When Isolde is told, she does not summon soldiers. She lights a second hearth in the east chamber. The man is brought in, silent. He removes his gloves, his hood, gray-streaked hair, eyes the color of ash. I bring word, he says, not threat, not request, only warning. He unrolls a scroll. It shows trade routes, the ones Isolde had redrawn to winters past. Only, they've been altered, tampered, merchants rerouted, supplies redirected, without consent. Someone mimics your seal, he says, and reroutes your power beneath your nose. Isolde does not rise. She lifts her cup, sips, then says, forgery is loud, will respond in silence. She thanks the traveler, offers no coin, only safety. The man bows once deeply and disappears into the snow. Like he was never there, for weeks Isolde works in quiet hours. She examines scrolls, compares, markings, studies the pressure of ink strokes. Her steward brings ink samples. Illyra watches, wide-eyed. It's like unraveling cloth. She says. Isolde nods. Find the false threads, and the whole garment reveals itself. Together, they discover the forgeries traced to 3 names, not nobles, clerks, scribes once. Loyal, bought with promises, paid in silence. They are not arrested. They are reassigned to candle dash making, to garden work, to the monastery where silence is law. Illyra asks, why not punish them? Isolde replies, truth is heavier when carried. Let them carry it out. Late in frost, a letter arrives from the Foxcrest house in the mountains. Inside, 3 lines. The quiet holds. The fields have turned. The child is learning. Isolde reads it twice, smiles once. She writes back, then let the seeds sleep. Spring will return. She seals it with no wax, only a pressed fern, and sends it west as frost deepens. Illyra prepares a gift for her mother. She works in the scriptorium beside Brother Aldrich, her small fingers stained with ink and smudges of ashdot. She writes no poem, no story. She copies laws quietly. Carefully, and beside each one, she draws a symbol, a sprig, a candle, a stone. A gate. When Isolde receives it, she is quiet for a long time. Then she says, "You've made a new language." Illyra shrugs. "It's just easier to understand this way." Isolde closes the book. "Then let's teach it." Over the next months, Illyra's symbols appear in the margins of castle notices. A pear for harvest, a wave for trade, a hand for healing. People read more. They remember more. Soon, children begin adding to the system. A bird for good news, a boot for messengers, a flame for change. Cathermore does not. Shout its orders, it sketches them in quiet ink, and the world begins to answer. The thaw brings scouts from the outer marches. They ride fast, breathless, mud-caked and spooked. A small faction to the east has begun fortifying the old iron tower. Not war, yet but muscle. Mistrust Reyna, LT reads the reports. Jaw-tight Zelda says nothing at first. Then simply, "Let's send stories." She gathers. Old court songs, tales of generosity. Paintings of Cathermore's gardens in bloom. She sends them not as threat, but as invitation. With each scroll, a pouch of seeds, lavender, sage. And pause now. Breathe. You're standing in a field dusted with frost. In your palm, it's small, ordinary, but inside them dash orchards, gardens, shade, peace in the castle's great hall. The fire burns low. You can hear the faint rustle of pages, the crackle of logs, the breath of a sleeping. Kingdom, let it hold you. Let it steady you. Nothing moves too quickly here. Even change waits for the soil to be ready as spring returns anew. Tradition begins. No titles, no fanfare. Each year, a single child from the village is brought to the chapel. They are asked not what they want to be, but what they notice. This year, a girl named Illyra answers, "I see where the bricks crack." Which bees return first? Slotta smiles. She's ready. The girl is given no sword, no ring, only a notebook and a single symbol, a quiet fern in the orchard. A round table is built of pale stone, 12 seats, each facing outward, one for the Duchess, one for Eli Ra, 10 for those who have listened long. Enough to speak, they meet beneath the pear tree. No titles, no scrolls. They speak of trade, of hunger, of learning. The rule is simple. No one speaks twice until all have spoken once. From that table, nothing grand is declared. Only paths traced, gifts exchanged, peace planted. One evening, as dusk drapes the orchard in lavender, Isolde and Illyra sit beneath the blooming pear tree. Petals fall like snow. The air is sweet. The silence is complete, Illyra asks. "Do you think people know what you've done?" Isolde shakes her head. "Most won't. Most don't need to. Then why do it?" Isolde looks at the blossom in her palm. Because the tree doesn't bloom to be seen it. Blooms because it must. They sit until the stars come, and the lanterns are lit one by one across the castle's quiet heart. You've arrived once more through snowfall, through blossom, through quiet days that shape the bones of kingdoms. Feel the hush return like a familiar blanket. The fire's low glow still flickers. The orchard's breath still drifts through the open windows. Let's walk further now, gently, steadily, into the next quiet turning. In the 6th spring since Illyra's birth, a whisper begins to travel, softly, subtly. She is nearly of age. She learns quickly. She listens. Suitors' letters arrive, not many, but chosen. A prince from the southern coast, a scholar duke's youngest son, a widowed lord with too much land and not enough laughter. Isolde reads each letter slowly. She shows them to no one. Not yet, not even Illyra. Instead, she places them unopened in a box of cedar and iron. Beside them, she adds a single note of her own. Let her choose. Let her voice be louder than mine. Asterisk, asterisk, and locks the box with a quiet key at the table of 12 stones. Illyra begins holding her own. Small circles, not of lords, not of scribes, but of those who walk the quiet paths of the world, the miller's wife, a tanner's apprentice, an elderly monk, a child who lost her brother in last year's fever. They talk of weather, of soil, of grief. Alira listens. She writes, later she returns to her mother. They don't want gold, she says. They want to be remembered. Sletta places a hand on her shoulder. Then remember them and how you govern. One morning, scroll arrives sealed in red wax. A symbol, a stag, pierced by an arrow. Isolde opens it with care. The message is clear. Old rival's house is fracturing. A cousin has seized control. There is no threat to Cathermore, but the ripple may reach her walls. Reynault reads the letter beside her. Will you offer aid? Isolde replies. No, I'll offer silence. Let them wonder what that means. Cathermore grows. Not by battle, not by decree, by conversation, by trust, by the slow, steady work of watching and waiting. No new walls are raised. Instead, roads are repaved, bridges widened. Merchants speak of it in taverns, the castle where no one shouts. And yet everything changes. A prince, traveling incognito, passes through the orchard. He writes in his journal, their power is rooted. It's like an oak. You do not see it move, but it has shaped the hill. One night Illyra wakes crying. A bad dream. Isolde holds her in the great bed, brushes hair from her forehead. I saw the orchard burn, Illyra whispers. I saw the pear tree fall. Isolde doesn't tell her it won't happen. She doesn't promise peace forever. Instead, she says, then we'll plant another, and you'll teach its roots to be strong. Illyra breathes, softens, sleeps, and in the courtyard below, the pear tree stands untouched, but listening. Reynault grows older, his hair silver now, his steps slower. He begins writing letters. Not of governance, of gratitude. To his first swordmaster, to the gardener who once saved his boots from thorns, to the monk who taught him the Psalms. He does not say goodbye. He simply writes, you were part of my peace. He seals each one with a wax stamp of the orchard leaf. And on the final letter, he adds a line, if silence follows, it is not absence, it is memory. Asterisk, asterisk, take a breath again. You are in the garden now, near the pear tree. The sun is low, golden on stone, cool on skin. The lanterns have not yet been lit. The birds sing, but only a little. Evening is waiting. You smell time. Warm bread cooling. In kitchen windows, ink drying in open books here, in this hour. There's nothing to chase, no noise to outrun, only the hum of things. Dash. Tended, let yourself stay here a moment, in the hush, in the kindness of endings not yet come. A case is brought before the table, a land dispute between two families. One lost a fence to a rising creek, the other gained 3 goats. The old solution would have been coin or forced return. Illyra offers neither. She invites both to plant a hedge together, new boundary, shared upkeep. They agree, confused but calm. Later, Isolde asks why. Illyra replies, because hedges last longer than fences, and they bloom. One day, a bard appears from the coast. He asks to play in the orchard. He sings no ballads of war, no victories, no heartbreak. He sings of bread given without request, a child who chose to listen, a duchess who wrote in the margins. The people gathered, they hummed the chorus as they leave. She built no throne, yet sat in light. She wore no crown, but grew the night. Isolde listens from her window and closes her eyes with a smile. One evening, as the rain falls slow and soft, Illyra places a scroll on her mother's writing desk. No seal, no flourish inside. Just a few lines. When I marry, it will not be to unite borders, it will not be to silence others, it will be to share this peace, the one we planted. I hope I am ready. Isolde does not cry, she does not speak. She lifts the letter, kisses the paper, and leaves it in the gray. Leather book wear all. Good stories rest. It is late spring when Illyra receives her first true proposal. Not a letter, not a herald's call, but a quiet visit. A young duke, calm and steady, arrives under the guise of a traitor. He He brings no sword, only a small carved box, smooth oak. Polished by hand, they meet beneath the flowering pear tree. No words of grandeur, no promises, only a look exchanged and a gift, a single. Pressed fern leaf symbol of trust and growth. Eli Ra holds it gently. In that silence, a pact is made. The castle awakens slowly to the news. No trumpets sound, no grand announcements. Instead, preparations unfold like petals in dawn's light. Silks are gathered. Soft shades of green and silver, candles are poured in slow streams of wax. Tables are set with simple elegance, bowls of wild herbs, bread fresh from the oven. Jugs of honeyed mead. Isolde watches the bustle from the library window. She knows this wedding is different, not just a union of houses, but a promise of peace, spoken in the quiet language of trust. On the eve of the ceremony, Alira walks the orchard alone. The moon is high, silver on leaves and stone. She breathes deeply, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs. Her fingers brush the rough bark of the pear tree. Memories flood softly, lessons learned.
Letters?
Written, silence is held. She smiles. Tomorrow, a new chapter begins. The morning dawns, clear and gentle. Guests arrive quietly, their footsteps soft on the flagstones. The chapel is bare, but bright sunlight streaming through stained glass. Casting colors like gentle rain, no priest speaks loudly. No vows are shouted. Instead, Alira and the Duke exchange rings carved from pear wood. Their hands touch lightly, promises made in shared glances. Around them, a gathered watch in respectful silence. The celebration is unlike any other. No, it's music to overwhelm. No clinking of heavy gall. Just the soft rustle of silk, the murmur of gratitude, and the crackle of the hearth's last embers. Food is shared, fresh fruit, soft cheeses, warm bread. Stories are told in whispers, and under the pear tree, lanterns float like stars fallen to earth. This wedding is not a spectacle. It is a breath, a moment, a choice, a reminder that love can be as strong as steel. Even when wrapped in silence, it teaches patience, trust, growth, and it holds the power to change not just to lives, but entire kingdoms. Isolde steps back, watching Alira take her place. The castle feels different now, not because of grandeur, but because peace has found a home. Alira's voice, once small, now carries softly in the halls. Her choices, her silences, her strength woven like silk into the castle's story. Let yourself breathe deeply once more. Imagine the orchard under moonlight. Pear blossoms shimmering with dew. The air is still. The night is calm. And as you drift towards sleep, carry this thought gently with you. Sometimes the greatest stories are told not in loud words, but in quiet moments, in silences filled with meaning, and in love that grows strong like a tree, rooted deep, reaching ever upward. Good night. Thank you for staying with me through this calm journey. Let's fold the final pages of this story slowly, gently, as the castle settles into night, and the world grows still beneath a velvet sky. The days after the wedding stretch out like soft silk. Eli Ra and her Duke walk the orchard together, hands brushing pear blossoms, their laughter low and steady like a stream. Isolde watches them from the great window, her heart full of quiet pride. She knows the story is far from over, but now it's written with gentleness, with patience, with love. One morning, Alira rises. Early, she steps outside to greet the dawn, cool air filling her lungs, dew glistening on grass blades. She thinks of the future, not of battles fought or won, but of gardens tended, letters written, silences shared. She smiles because she is ready now. As you lay your head down, let your mind settle like the falling pear petals. Let the soft silence carry you. Know that peace, like a tree, grows quietly, rooted deep in trust, reaching slowly toward the light. And as you drift into dreams, may you hold the stillness with you. Good night, dear listener. Sleep well, wrapped in the calm embrace of history's quiet heart.